You know that feeling when you realize the people you trusted most in the world never really saw you at all? My name is Elena, and this is the story of how my parents gave my sister $400,000 for her wedding as a gift. No strings attached, no repayment plans. Just pure, unconditional love wrapped in a check. And when my turn came, they offered to pay for mine too. I cried. I hugged them. I felt so loved, so seen, so equal, finally. But 3 months after my wedding, I received an envelope in the mail. Inside was an invoice. Itemized, professional, cold. Every single expense from my wedding day. The flowers, the venue, the cake, the band, even the napkins. And at the bottom, in bold letters, asterisk asterisk total due, $87,340. Payment expected within 90 days. Asterisk asterisk. I stood there, shaking, staring at that piece of paper like it was written in a language I didn't understand. My husband found me on the kitchen floor, sobbing, holding that invoice like it was a death certificate. Because in a way, it was. It was the death of the illusion I had been living under my entire life. The illusion that my parents loved us equally, that I mattered just as much as my sister, Victoria, but I was wrong. So wrong. And what they didn't know, what they couldn't possibly have predicted, was that I wasn't going to just roll over and take it. I wasn't going to smile and nod and pay that bill like a good little daughter. No, I was going to make sure the entire world knew exactly who they really were. And I was going to do it in a way they would never, ever forget. But let me take you back. Back to where it all started. Back to the moment I should have seen the warning signs but didn't. Because when you're conditioned to accept crumbs, you stop recognizing what a full meal looks like. Victoria was always the golden child. Let me be clear about that from the start. She was 3 years older, smarter in school, prettier according to family photos, and somehow effortlessly perfect. When she wanted piano lessons, my parents hired the best teacher in the state. When I asked for guitar lessons, I got a YouTube tutorial link and a used guitar from a garage sale. When Victoria graduated college, they threw her a party with 200 guests, a live band, and a champagne tower. When I graduated, we went to Olive Garden, just the four of us, and my dad complained about the breadstick portions. I'm not saying I was neglected. I wasn't. I had food, clothes, a roof over my head. But love, attention, pride, those were reserved for Victoria. So when she got engaged to Marcus, a successful investment banker with a trust fund and a summer house, my parents lost their minds with excitement. My mother cried for 3 days straight. Happy tears, she said. Tears of joy. The wedding planning started immediately. No budget discussions. No, let's be reasonable talks. Just, whatever you want, darling. This is your special day. Victoria wanted a castle venue in upstate New York. Done. She wanted imported Italian marble for the aisle. Done. She wanted a 12-tier cake with edible gold leaf and fresh orchids flown in from Thailand. Done, done, done. I watched it all unfold like a movie I wasn't cast in. I was a bridesmaid, of course. Wearing a dress I hated, in a color that washed me out, standing in the background of every photo while Victoria glowed in her $20,000 gown. The wedding cost $400,000. My father announced it at the rehearsal dinner like it was a badge of honor. Nothing is too much for my little girl, he said, raising his glass. And everyone clapped, including me, because what else was I supposed to do? After the wedding, I thought maybe, just maybe, things would balance out. Maybe now that Victoria had her moment, there would be room for me. And then I met James. Kind, gentle, hard-working James. A high school teacher with a heart of gold and a smile that made me feel like I was the only person in the room. When he proposed, I was terrified to tell my parents. Not because they wouldn't approve of James, but because I knew they wouldn't care the way they cared for Victoria. But I was wrong. Or so I thought. When I told them, my mother cried again. My father hugged me. And then he said the words I had been waiting my entire life to hear. "We'll pay for your wedding, sweetheart, just like we did for Victoria. You deserve that too." I believed him. God help me, I believed him. My wedding was beautiful. Smaller than Victoria's, yes. We had 100 guests instead of 300. A beautiful garden venue instead of a castle. A 6-tier cake instead of 12. But it was mine. And it was perfect. James and I paid for our honeymoon ourselves. A week in Greece. Modest, but magical. We came home glowing, ready to start our lives together. And then the envelope arrived. At first, I thought it was a thank you card I had missed, or maybe a wedding gift that got delayed. I opened it casually, standing by the mailbox, sunlight streaming through the trees. And then I saw it. The invoice. Every single expense. Venue, $18,000. Catering, $25,000. Flowers, $6,500. Band, $8,000. Photography, $12,000. Dress alterations, $840. Even the valet parking, $3,000. My hands went numb, my vision blurred. I read it again and again. Surely this was a mistake. Surely this was meant for someone else. But no, there was my name, Elena Morrison, and at the bottom, my father's signature on the contract, with a note in his handwriting. Payment plan available if needed. Please remit within 90 days to avoid interest charges. Interest charges. On my wedding. The wedding they promised to pay for. I called my mother first. My voice was shaking so badly I could barely speak. Mom, I got an invoice. For the wedding. Is this real? There was a pause. A long, horrible pause. And then she said, so calmly it made my blood turn cold. Well, yes, sweetheart. We told you we'd pay for it, and we did. But we expected you to pay us back, of course. Victoria and Marcus didn't need the money, so we gifted it to them. But you and James are young. You have your whole lives to pay it off. I couldn't breathe. You never said anything about paying you back. You said it was a gift. You said, we said we'd pay for it, Elena, and we did. Now you pay us. That's how loans work, honey. Loans. She called my wedding a loan. I hung up. I don't even remember doing it. I just disconnected from the call, from reality, from the life I thought I knew. James found me an hour later, still sitting on the floor, staring at the invoice. He read it. His face went white, and then read. This is insane, he whispered. This is, Elena, this is abuse. I didn't argue. Because he was right. My parents had given Victoria $400,000 as a gift. A gift. No repayment, no expectations, just love. And me? I got an invoice, a payment plan, and a reminder that I would never, ever be enough. But here's the thing about breaking someone who's already been bent for years. Sometimes, they don't just break. Sometimes, they snap back. Harder than anyone expected. And I was about to snap back so hard, it would echo for the rest of their lives. I didn't sleep for 3 days. I couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that invoice. I heard my mother's voice. That's how loans work, honey. James wanted to confront them. He wanted to drive to their house, throw the invoice in their faces, and demand answers. But I stopped him, because I knew confrontation wouldn't work. They would gaslight me, twist it, make me feel guilty for being upset. No, I needed something bigger, something they couldn't talk their way out of. And then it hit me. The one thing my parents cared about more than anything, their reputation. My father was a deacon at their church. My mother ran the charity committee at the country club. They were pillars of the community, respected, admired, untouchable. Or so they thought. I started documenting everything. I pulled up Victoria's wedding contract, which my parents had proudly framed and hung in their study. It listed every expense, every gift, every detail. And at the bottom, in bold letters, paid in full, gift to Victoria and Marcus. Then I pulled my contract, identical expenses, slightly smaller amounts, but at the bottom, to be reimbursed by Elena and James Morrison within 90 days. 2 daughters, 2 weddings, 2 completely different treatments. And I had the proof. I made copies. I scanned everything. And then I wrote a letter. Not to my parents, not to Victoria, but to the world. I posted it on social media, Facebook, Instagram, even LinkedIn. I didn't rant. I didn't scream. I just told the truth, calmly, clearly, with photos of both contracts side by side. The caption read, "When your parents pay $400K for your sister's wedding as a gift, but send you an invoice for $87K for yours. This is what favoritism looks like. This is what conditional love looks like. And I'm done pretending it's normal." I hit post, and then I turned off my phone. When I turned it back on 6 hours later, my phone was on fire. Thousands of comments, hundreds of shares, messages from friends, distant relatives, even strangers who had experienced the same thing. But the messages that mattered most? The ones from my parents' friends, their church community, the country club members, all asking the same question. Is this true? My mother called 17 times. My father left voicemails that ranged from angry to desperate. Victoria sent a single text. "How could you do this to us?" And I replied with something I never thought I'd have the courage to say. "How could you do this to me?" The fallout was immediate. My parents were asked to step down from their church positions. The country club charity committee quietly removed my mother. Invitations stopped coming. Friends stopped calling. Their perfect reputation? Destroyed. And all it took was the truth. But here's where the story gets interesting. Because I didn't do this just for revenge. I did it for something much more important. I did it to finally set myself free. 2 months after I posted that letter, my father showed up at my door. No warning, no call ahead, just him, standing there, looking older and smaller than I remembered. "Can I come in?" he asked. His voice was quiet, broken. I almost said no, but James squeezed my hand and nodded, so I let him in. We sat in silence for a long time, and then my father did something I never expected. He cried. Real, ugly, shoulder-shaking tears. "I didn't realize," he said. "I didn't realize how much we hurt you. Your mother and I. We thought we were being practical. Victoria didn't need the money, so we gave it to her. You and James were just starting out, so we thought a loan made sense. We thought we were helping." I stared at him. "You gave her a gift and me a bill, Dad. That's not help. That's cruelty." He nodded. "You're right. You're absolutely right. And I'm so sorry." He reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope. Inside was a check for $87,340, the exact amount of the invoice. "Paid in full," he whispered. "No loan, no repayment. I'm so sorry, Elena. I'm so sorry we made you feel like you didn't matter." I took the check, not because I needed it. James and I had already started a payment plan, but because it was a symbol, an acknowledgement, a validation. "Thank you," I said, and I meant it. But then I did something that surprised even me. I tore the check in half. My father's eyes went wide. "Elena, I don't want your money, Dad," I said quietly. "I wanted your love, your respect, your equality, and you can't buy that with a check." He broke down completely then, and I didn't comfort him, because some pain needs to be felt. My mother never apologized. Victoria never reached out. And honestly, I'm okay with that, because I realized something through all of this. I don't need their validation anymore. I don't need their approval. I don't need to be the golden child. I just need to be me, and that's enough. James and I are building a life together, a real one, based on honesty, equality, and love that doesn't come with conditions or invoices. And my parents? They're learning a hard lesson, that favoritism has a cost, that love cannot be divided unequally without consequence, and that sometimes the child you overlook becomes the one who teaches you the most important lesson of all. You can't put a price on dignity, and you can't invoice someone's worth. So, what did I learn from all of this? A few things. First, favoritism destroys families. It doesn't matter if it's intentional or not. When you treat your children differently, you plant seeds of resentment that grow into forests of pain. Second, silence protects the wrong people. For years, I stayed quiet. I accepted the scraps. I smiled through the hurt, and all it did was enable their behavior. Speaking up, even when it's terrifying, is the only way to break the cycle. Third, your worth is not determined by how others treat you. For so long, I measured my value by my parents' attention, but I am not less than because they saw me that way. I am whole. I am enough. And I always was. And finally, revenge isn't always about destruction. Sometimes it's about truth, about standing up, about refusing to be erased or diminished anymore. I didn't destroy my parents because I hated them. I exposed the truth because I loved myself enough to stop accepting less. If you're watching this, and you've ever felt invisible in your own family, I want you to know something. You are seen, you are valued, and you deserve better. Don't wait for an invoice to realize your worth. Don't wait for someone else to validate you. You are enough. Right now, exactly as you are. And anyone who can't see that, that's their loss, not yours. Thank you for listening to my story. And remember, the best revenge is becoming the person they never believed you could be.